I'm going to read to you a little bit more from that book, A Beginner's Mind by Suzuki. There's three little sections I want to read. A monk asks another monk, "What are you doing?" "I'm practicing Zazen," which means just his spiritual practice. The first monk replied, "Why are you practicing Zazen?" The monk answers, "I want to attain enlightenment. I want to be a Buddha." The disciple said, "Do you know what the teacher did? He picked up a tile and started to polish it. In Japan, after taking a tile from the kiln, we polish it to give it a beautiful finish. So the teacher picked up the tile and started to polish it. The monk, his disciple, asked, 'What are you doing?' 'I want to make this tile into a jewel,' the teacher said. The student asked, 'How is it possible to make a tile a jewel?' The teacher responded, 'How is it possible to become a Buddha by practicing Zazen?' That's where that idea originates, thou art that, Tattvamasi. If you were not already that enlightened self, how could you become it? How can something of one nature become something of another nature? How can something of one essence become something of another essence?" So the teacher's saying, it is not your practice that makes you a Buddha, that awakens you. The practice does not change your nature. It makes you aware, helps you become aware of what already exists in you. And I always use that on myself because it's so important to hold on to that idea. Why? Because it gives you real courage inside. It gives you a real sense of value inside. It gives you a reason for grace and for mercy and for hope and for compassion and for all of these things, which come, of course, without reason in the end. But to just know that within you is this unpolished diamond, this gem which is your nature, to be able to focus on that and sit there in the presence of that, opening to that, it's a delightful, delightful piece of news, piece of truth that can be absolutely a gem in and of itself for your practice, for your attitudes about your practice, for your enthusiasm about your practice. Here's another famous koan. Zuikan was a Zen master who always used to address himself. "Zuikan," he would call, and then he would answer, "Yes." "Zuikan?" "Yes." Of course, he was living all alone in his small zendo, and of course he knew who he was, but sometimes he lost himself. And whenever he lost himself, he would address himself, "Zuikan?" "Yes." Delightful little story, little koan there. So you have a monk who calls out his own name and answers to his own name. And it's included in the scriptures as a teaching. And what an interesting thing that is. Because here's the explanation that Suzuki gives just a short while later. That is why we should always address ourselves, checking up on ourselves like a doctor tapping himself. This is very important. This kind of practice should be continued moment after moment, incessantly. Now, this is a beautiful idea. Go along throughout the day, call out your name every now and then, to become present in the moment. It's a way of reminding yourself of the breath, or doing exactly what thinking of the breath, becoming aware of the breath does. It brings you back to this present moment, back to that sense of who am I, what am I. It's very much like repeating your mantra over and over and over again. Because of course many of us don't think in those terms, but it would be a wonderful term to begin thinking in, and that is your mantra is your name. Thou art that. And really what you're doing as you repeat your mantra over and over and over again, you're calling to yourself in the woods because you think you are lost. And one day you're hoping that inner self responds. Let that inner self respond. Yes, yes, it's me. And be free.